second. Okay. Thanks, Mark, again for joining us and sharing with the teachers that are here and anyone that may be able to watch the recording to learn more about the ideas series.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me a little bit of time to talk about, as I mentioned before, it's one of my favorite products that Pearson has published, but it's a series called Big Idea. The senior author on this is, the senior authors on this were Jim Cummings and Margaret Early. And I know they're very well known in Ontario, well loved in Ontario. But they started with this big overriding question. How can we teach challenging curriculum content to students whose knowledge of language of instruction is quite limited? And so that's where they came up with Big Idea. And this is a series that connects really well with Ontario's social studies and science curriculum for grades 4 to 6. And what it does is it presents those science and social studies concepts in a very highly visual way. And it has a focus on developing vocabulary, the subject-specific vocabulary. And what it does is it allows English language learners to learn alongside the rest of the kids in the class. And I think what Jim and Margaret were noticing was that often ELL students were excluded or did something different when it came to science and social studies time. But this way they can actually participate and learn along with the rest of the class. So I wanted to, Big Idea, it's essentially a series of books. There's 8 books per grade level for Ontario. But there's also Big Idea Interactive, and there's a teacher's guide that comes along with it. So today we'll quickly go through, talk about the books, and then we'll talk about the interactive piece, which is so important these days. And then I will answer any questions for you if you like, and I'll give you some information where you can explore more. I'll give you a link to our website where you can explore it in more detail if you like. But for each grade level, grades 4 to 6, there are 8 books. 4 deal with social studies and 4 deal with science. So here you're seeing the Ontario grade 4, and I'm sure when you look at the topics of the books, you're going to recognize those as your curriculum topics. And so again, we've got grade 5 books here, and then they should all look very familiar to you. And the grade 6 books. Now, I just wanted to quickly give you a glimpse inside of one of the books and talk about some of the features of these books. So every book starts off with a spread like this, where it's introducing the big idea from the book. And as you can see, it's very visual. There's a lot of focus on vocabulary. And it's designed to get kids talking about it, to get them thinking and questioning, and sets them up for inquiry, sets them up for exploration in the rest of the book. There's 1 to 3 chapters in each book. Each chapter has a number of spreads, and the spreads are set up, again, very visual. We want kids to be able to pick up a lot of the meaning from the visuals and not rely as much on the text, because that's where they're still learning. That's where they might struggle. And so we need to really sort of introduce that text in small amounts and digestible amounts. So you've got some chapter stuff here. You'll notice that there are some supports, lots of visual support, lots of labels. The text is kept to a minimum so that it's not too much of a challenge for kids. There are some activities that are built in. And again, if you look at, these are 2 examples of the activities, but if you look at them, they're very visual, and you can almost figure out how to do them without reading a word on the page. So they are very helpful to give that visual support, but also be able to build vocabulary understanding that starts off with that visual support. And then each book does have sort of a culminating activity at the end. So this is from the Light and Sound book, and sort of the culminating activity or the big activity at the end is to design and build a musical instrument. And so there's, again, lots of visual, and it's a very good summary of the different types of learning, both the language learning, but also the content area learning that happened in the book as well. And then there are lots of support. So we do have a glossary and index that are in the back, and then we do have a list of the key terms, because we do want there to be a very specific and direct focus on vocabulary, because that is often the challenge for ELL students, is they need that to develop that vocabulary to help them access or understand that content. So that's a quick look inside the books. I wanted to quickly talk about, there is something called Big Idea Interactive. And basically for every one of the books, there's an ebook version of that. And when you buy that ebook version, what it does is you get a digital book. So it's got all of those standard ebook functionality. So you can turn the pages, you can bookmark, you've got the table of contents in the left nav, you've got the glossary there, you can make notes, you can bookmark pages, you can do all of that stuff and that a typical ebook does. For a Big Idea, we also have audio that has been attached to the book, to each page, and you can play the audio and the words highlight as they're being read. So it does give students that, or help students make that connection between the spoken word and the written word. There is all of those supports in there. One of the cool things though is there are interactive activities built into each of the book. Usually about 3 of them per book, but these interactive activities just help kids understand the big ideas in a different way. So a lot of these activities follow a lot of the vocabulary and development types of things you would do in a classroom. Word associations, fill in the blank, word jumbles, those sorts of things. So you've got a whole list of the types of activities that are embedded in here. And some of these activities are designed for teachers that you can use if you're sort of presenting to a group of kids, or if you're working with kids on that. But the activities as well are designed for independent use as well. So students can go into the ebook afterwards and complete the activities, or they can complete the activities as they're reading through the book on the ebook. Okay, so there is a lot of teacher support that comes along with this. I don't think I've got time to go through it right now, but there is a teacher's guide that comes along with Big Idea Social Studies and Big Idea Science, and that just gives you a lot of activities, a lot of support, and a lot of sort of line masters and things like that, which will help you use the resource. There's, for the interactive activities, there's teacher support built right into the interactive piece of this, so that you do have that point of use sort of support there. But you can also, there's lots of presentation tools that are built into Big Idea Interactive. So it does help you, you know, focus kids on particular thing. Great if you're projecting in the classroom to a group of kids, but also great if you're working online and sharing your screen with kids. Okay, so there is a lot more information online. We've got sort of the underlying principles of the program, components overview, virtual samples, and then all of the order information and pricing. And that can be found at pearsoncanada.ca/big idea. And I'll throw that, I will throw that URL in the chat before I leave, just so that you have that if you want to go and explore this further. Any quick questions before we move on? Are people generally familiar with Big Idea? Have you seen it around, or is it being used in any of your schools?
Maybe just share in the chat or add reactions with thumbs up if you're using it.
Okay, yeah, a couple have it. That's great.
That's good.
And some say that they've got the books, but they might not have the ebooks. So that's something. You can purchase Big Idea Interactive separately. So if that's something that would help you out in these pandemic times, it's quite a reasonable purchase. So you should look into that. The way the interactive purchase, the interactive platform works is you basically purchase the ebook. So it's it's not per student, it's per book. So you register the ebook when you get the information, and all students that you're working with would use the same login information to log in. Only one of them can be logged in at a time, but when that student logs out, another one can log in.
Is that access for the year, or is that?
Oh, sorry, that is 7-year access.
7-year access, okay.
Important thing to forget to mention. So when you buy Big Idea Interactive, it's for a 7-year term from the date that you register the books.
Wow, that's great. That's good to know. Is there any more questions out there? And I think if there's any other questions, we'll be able to email Mark or your person that represents the school board that they're in. Yeah,
so you can definitely email me, or I think Heather Fisher works with a lot of you. You could email Heather, or whoever your Pearson representative is.
Okay, and the last question there was, do you have anything similar for grade 7 and 8?
We do not have anything similar for 7-8. Now, we have heard of some teachers who are using some of the material in grade 7 and 8, but it's mostly to sort of bring kids up to speed in terms of their science and social studies understanding. So, no, we don't have the same type of comprehensive connection to the 7-8 curriculum topics.
Maybe that's something as a recommendation going forward.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
No, and I think the grade 4-6 topics, they do work as a background knowledge, or providing a basis for those students who may be joining Ontario schools in grade 7 and 8. So I've used them for those older grades to as a starting point. So they're good for that too, to stretch. Great. Thank you so much, Mark, for your time and sharing all the information. And we really—
Very welcome. So I'll just throw some information up in the chat, and then I will leave you to the rest of your meeting. But thank you very much for the time, and please get in touch with me if you have any questions.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thanks for everyone for joining us this evening.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.